to.
Hello, everybody. My name is History Williams, and you're listening live to that podcast that winds up being your favorite podcast, and that actually is really your favorite podcast the whole time. It's called the HisStory Making podcast. I am super excited because of the fact that I have an amazing person on this actual stream. I realize I'm a little blurry, so I'm going to fix that in a quick second. But with that being said, man, I appreciate it, and I'm super excited to be able to have this amazing person on, which some of you, if you've been paying attention to this podcast lately, you would know that, hey, I've been focusing on females and people who are non-gender conforming and feminine and stuff like that. Just that representation of that femininity in media as well as also in power. So with that being said, man, I am super excited to be able to announce and be able to interview one of the, I guess I want to say the matriarchs of the FGC, Miss Saki Sakura. Or actually, because of the fact that she's gaming, I'm going to do my gaming introduction. So are you ready for this, Miss Sakura?
Yes, I am.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, people who conform and don't conform to the binary gender norms. With that being said, I want to introduce you to one of the baddest females ever to touch the controllers of a PS5, Xbox, or whatever that is that has Mortal Kombat, Guilty Gear, and whatever you think that you can face her in. This person has been streaming for over the course of, if I'm not mistaken, about 5 years, and has been doing some amazing stuff. With that being said, please forgive her because she's been working at home all day, and she said that she's not looking the best, but I think she's fantastic. But with that being said, introducing Miss Saki Sakura.
Hello.
See,
What's
I
up,
told
everyone?
you. That's how I supposed to introduce on video games. So with that being said, I hope that I made you feel special and warm and cuddly on the inside.
For sure. That was actually epic. I don't think I've ever been introduced that way. That's actually was a really nice, different way to be introduced from.
So my thing is, man, I'm gonna be like a little vulnerable on my part, so you could get to know me. And every single one of my interviews, this is what I've been doing, which is basically trying to just interview it from a viewer or a person who just walked in on the conversation, kind of like from a fun way. So that's why I said I intentionally did no research into you, and the only reason being is because of the fact that, like, I want to get to know you as a normal fucking human being instead of from the perspective of like, oh man, I've been watching this person for like the last 30 years. And Magneto would not be fighting with Charles Xavier. Magneto will be like, I don't want to like do that. What I wanted to do is be able to actually get to know you freshly and be able to actually ask questions that I think that people would normally ask a person just like you on the first, like, I guess, date or meeting. So with that being said, I told you off screen one of the reasons why I'm doing this. Do you not recall?
Yes. So I believe it was just to highlight more women in the community.
Yes.
And basically show their hard work, which is it's honestly one of the reasons why I said yes, because if anything, my brand and my goals and dreams and projects have all really centered around that, is highlighting women, because they, of course, deserve that spotlight. When a lot of people don't give it, it's just like one of those things where it needs to happen more. So
yeah, I definitely agree. I apologize. I'm fixing my camera so I won't look as blurry. So either, yeah, and I look like I'm more blurry. With that, I definitely agree. I was talking to a friend of mine who actually did an interview, and I am sweaty and foggy. Man, today is just a busy day. So I was talking to a friend, and she was saying the same thing, is that, like, essentially it's kind of important to be able to kind of highlight this particular thing. We don't necessarily focus on the importance of females, I guess, in media. My wife is trying to get me to watch this documentary on Netflix. I'm trying to recall what the actual Netflix series is. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna find it in like 10 seconds. But um, like I think it's dope that we actually getting a chance to actually do this. And one of the reasons why it's so important that I do this because of the fact that I am a dad and I am trying to do something special and be able to make my daughter feel special throughout the whole
Right.
time. Now, granted, I have a son, but my son is like, man, fuck it, dad, I don't care at all. So uh it's like he doesn't need that reinforcer, but like I didn't realize how much that reinforcer needs to be made for my daughter. Completely different experience. So I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate every single female who I have gotten to interview over the course of this past month going on. This is the first month. I have 2 more months of like nothing but female content. So I'm
That's
so proud of.
amazing, though.
Yes, I want to say that. Like, I want to give a shout out to Vanity Plays. I want to give a shout out to Han Rose. Han Rose is the one that told me to get in contact with you. Uh,
Yes.
uh,
Hannah's amazing. Much love to her, and of course to Vanity as well.
yes, and then another person who, like, hands down, told me, Vanity did tell me to get in contact with you as well. But Han Rose is like, no, you got it. Like in the middle of her interview, no, you got to interview Saki. I love Saki. She did it just like that. So,
You know what's crazy is that if it was the other way around, I would do the same thing. I would be like, as soon as I mention Hannah, I would be like, you need to talk to Hannah. Talk
yeah,
to Hannah right now.
yes, Hannah
That's
is
just
so
so
dope.
funny. We have like that same energy.
Yabkai asks, how are we doing? So I think that I'm pretty dope, man. How about you, King? And how are you doing? By the way, as well, Sakura.
So Saki's fine. I'm doing really well. As well as I can be. I'm kind of going through quite a bit. As far as like just so many life changes
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
I'm starting a new job. I just quit my old one, which was the one that was kind of treating me super bad.
Okay.
Um, I rescued a kitten. The kitten was in a car engine, and I rescued it.
Okay.
So I'm a cat mom now, apparently.
Okay. Big shout outs to Cat
um,
Mouse. Meow meow. I see.
um, but yeah, no, and like I recently got over a breakup, but we keep it moving, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. So
Okay.
it's been a lot of like happening all over the place. Like
Oh,
this month of September has just been super all over.
that's okay. That's all right. And that's perfectly fine. And I think that in the context of we just went through like a pandemic, I think that it's okay for you to have a bad month, just at least one time.
That's true.
I think it's okay, but it doesn't sound like it's bad. It sounds like it actually did pretty well for you. So you got a cat, you got a new job. So actually, I'm going to segue, good because you just talked about jobs. Naughty Nimbus, Super Mew, Super Mew. I appreciate that. Saki being blessed with greatness. That's awesome. Yes, man. Of course. So, bro, like my this is so funny because like she's smiling the whole time, and it's like she hasn't stopped being a little giddy and goofy about this. Big shout outs to you. You so you like one of the most joyous people I've met. So, with that, uh, work. What do you do for a living now? May I ask?
So I used to actually work with data
Uh
and working with photography.
huh.
So I used to fix pictures, especially for school pictures.
Okay.
But I recently transitioned. I can't talk too much about the position because it is with a new company that's like starting out.
Fair
But
enough.
essentially, I'm going to be helping with looking at streamers as well as running tournaments and organizing them.
Oh.
Pretty much what I kind of already do with Queen of the Hill series.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm actually going to be paid like as if it was a full time job, which honestly, that's like the biggest dream that could happen for me. To be quite honest with you, usually when you kind of like get into these types of things, like for example, content creation, um, when you first start out, you're kind of thinking, oh, this is just a hobby. But as you evolve more with your content creation and getting more experience as the years go, kind of realized, like, wait a minute, this is something that could actually be legit if I can follow the right course and the right path to actually getting there.
Yes.
So to be able to actually have a job in the industry and in the actual, like, something that I love and I'm so passionate about is amazing.
Yes, I will say this. So I do a tournament myself. It's called the Elder God on the Hill. This is a shameless plug. But it's on my stream. So with that being said, I do this tournament as well, and I didn't realize how much work it took to get into it. But I didn't realize how much stress it comes into it. But like I
Oh my
did.
gosh, yes. Yes. It's so stressful. I can't tell you how, the stories I have had. It's just one of those things where, like, you get better as you grow, but there are so many stories that I have that about, like, some of the most, like, stressful moments in my career.
Yes, I would say that. Like I just had a stressful moment this past Monday. So I am super like I love my community because I've definitely built one. And they instantly was like, "Nah, we ain't doing this bullying stuff." And this situation kind of, can we hear one? Can we hear one what?
I think, can we hear one story if I'm
Oh, no.
assuming correctly?
If we want to, I mean, that's up to you.
I'm
But
totally down. I'm totally down.
go ahead. Go. All right. So I guess we don't want to hear what I got to go ahead. No, 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 no. I really, because I'm gonna tell you, like you're super. All right. So I'm shamelessly like excited and giddy about this because I seen your Queen of the Hill tournament and I seen like your like personality and I'm really kind of like excited about meeting you. So, and I'm pretty sure like the rest of the chat is really excited about me. You built something, girl. You built the community even without fucking being in this damn room. So
Yeah,
so
so
go ahead.
so
Tell the
for
story.
one, before, like, I say my story, one of the things about Queen of the Hill, like, the thing is that, and this is honestly shout outs to Dynamic Focus for just being like a really good support system in everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
And also shout out to Aziza, who's like the lead on Dynamic Focus.
Yes.
Um, the the fact that when I joined that team,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw my content and everything I've done just kind of start fitting into the places where it should go. So what do I mean by that? So before, I used to do like I used to love moderating tournaments. I was into esports around, I want to say 2016, because I used to be a moderator for a chat mod for an esports team. And then I started helping out with their Dead by Daylight tournaments and their Overwatch tournaments. And then as I was going through my tenure in Space Esports, I found the FGC and I went ahead and I switched like my entire content, my entire brand into the FGC. And then through a lot of hard work and practice and dedication, I was starting to create tournaments. I was starting to commentate. I was placing really well. Um, Dynamic Focus found out about me and they invited me to be on their team. And once I got to be on their team, that's when everything sort of like changed because I started getting the guidance and the advice that I needed to actually be able to grow and get opportunities that I didn't realize they were there or I didn't know about until they were actually like, hey, you do a lot of cool stuff, you should be here, not there. So part of like the biggest reason when it comes to like my growth is having someone like Dynamic Focus and like Aziza actually talking to me every day and saying, yo, Saki, you're doing this, apply to this. You're showing this, make this resume so that you can actually send it and out. Like, I wouldn't be without this, like, I wouldn't be with this job if it wasn't for the fact that like they actually showed me, hey, here's how you organize all of your stuff, here's how you organize your content, here's what you do. You basically took a marketing course in actually like physical events and not like through a classroom. You actually experienced it. So
Somebody said, "Get baby out." Naughty Nimbus said, "Get baby out of the corner." So
that's it. Yeah,
What does that
I'm
mean?
like the baby of the team, so
Gotcha.
that's fine.
All right, so that makes sense. Okay, awesome. So, damn, you're that is pretty dope. So, with that, like, how has your tournament, especially with the Queen of the Hill, how has
Mhm.
that shaped up against things like Outworld Television and Terra Dome? Well, Terra Dome is you as well.
Yes. So
So
Terradrum is actually a volunteer work that I do with
yes,
the devs.
yes,
I'm a QA tester for them.
gotcha.
And again, mostly volunteer work. So I try to help out when I can. But as far as like compared to other events though, so at first, actually, this is kind of sound crazy, but I knew Hot Rod before he became Outworld Television. Okay, and I remember he was actually under the island community with Herbs, who's both my best friend and my training partner.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember he was like looking to start up some events and things like that. And he would come to Herbs and me and actually ask for like some advice and things like that. And one day he became Outward Television, that and pretty much grew.
Hmm.
But there's been moments where he's of course asked me for help too as well, as far as like streaming stuff or like mostly streaming stuff actually, believe it or not.
Okay.
So there's like things like that, but um, it starts off like that essentially, right? It starts off like a lot of people asking me questions, and then I start giving them like, "Hey, you could do this," or "Hey, here's the fix for whatever problem you're experiencing," and that's one of the things that as Queen of the Hill started like building, it was one of like the motivating factors to actually like take the leap and start up. And it's actually how the idea like came out.
Hmm.
So the other co-founder, their name is Seisaji. They actually were like, "Hey Saki, I really want to build this. Can you build it?" And I really wanted to, because I think around the time there was this whole idea of doing like coughs for MK11, and
Yes.
then if you placed in like if you get like a certain amount of wins, you would win the cough, right?
Yes.
So they wanted to do that, but for the women of the community, and I was like, "Yo, that's so dope! We can totally do this. We can get a couple of esports teams like involved and or esports orgs, and we can totally kick it off." And so that's when we decided to make the first MK11 one, about a year ago. Actually, it's going to be a year pretty soon. Um, we raised, I think, like over $1,000. We had prizes up to like $500 worth of prizes, and it was really awesome. It was really dope. It was one of like probably the coolest things that I was ever getting to do. But like I mentioned, it's one of those things where it was created because someone reached out to me and was like, "Hey, can you help make this happen?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And then after that MK11, we sort of just took off, and that's when I kind of like took the reins. And Seisachi, she had to actually study, so she's been more in college and whatnot. So whatever Queen of the Hill stuff they've actually been able to hear about, they've been lurking in the chats and just be like, "Hey, how's it going? Is everything good?" And it was like, "Yeah, everything's kind of cool. We're doing really well." But of course, studies come first, and as
That's
we
true.
after that MK11 one, we just basically said, "All right, I'm going to take the reins, me, Saki, and we're just going to keep it going." We just touched MK. Let's touch Street Fighter. Let's touch Soul Calibur, and then we actually are right now dipping into Guilty Gear.
Gotcha.
So, and then like it's one of those things where it just grew, and it didn't grow overnight, but the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic, we are creating something that many people are interested in because there's really nothing to do during this pandemic, right? Offline hasn't been really stable enough for people to actually go back out there and actually compete again.
Yes.
And it's focusing on a problem that has been existing since the pandemic and even before the pandemic. And it's the fact that women, non binary people, and other femme identifying people, they don't get the opportunity that they deserve. So with the Queen of the Hill series, they are going to get that opportunity,
Yes.
whether it be commentating, whether it be competing, whether it be gaining experience. One of those big things that we like really strive for when we do Queen of the Hill And so when you see like Outworld Television and you see like all of these other like bigger events, um, we reach that level not only in production but also in mission,
Yeah.
because we're basically challenging and saying, hey, you're doing an amazing job, you're doing great for the community, but don't forget about these players, don't forget about these competitors, because they're just as part of the community as everybody else is,
Yeah.
and they deserve the recognition for their hard work. So
Honestly, and I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of me wants to say this, and I don't mean this as a disrespectful way. There would not be a hot rod, it sounds like, if it wasn't for you and the other women who have contributed to make things like Queen of the Hill. That is essentially what I'm hearing. Which is
I don't ever like to say, hey, you can't exist because of me, because one, I'm really humble and I don't feel like
no, 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 no,
um
no, no, and
you know
I don't want you to take it as this. This is why I say I'm not saying it as a disrespectful way, but there's a humbleness to about the idea of paving the way. So one of the things I'm going to identify is the last time when I checked up a little bit on you, you are Latinx, right?
yes, I'm Puerto
Okay,
Rican.
you Puerto Rican of all
Yes.
things, Puerto Rican. All right,
Came out of the womb with a switchblade.
so my wife is Mexican and native, so we joke about that all the time. But she grew up mostly Mexican, so I have a good friend who's Puerto Rican, and we always joke about it. Like the biggest conversation that comes up is about Selena, and he was like, "Well, I like Selena." But I like Jennifer Lopez. I like the Jennifer Lopez version of Selena because she was Puerto Rican in that one, and that's when Selena was at. Like, yeah, it's like
Jennifer Lopez is New Yorican. There's a big
yeah,
difference.
gotcha. See,
There's a big difference in
see,
that one,
and
but
then
yes.
see, in my like, I didn't even know that was a thing. New Yorican, I didn't even know that was a thing. See, I know that there was I found out there was this thing called Tejano, and I was like, what the fuck is a Tejano? And then my wife was like, oh yeah, like that's when you're Mexican but you're from Texas. And I was like, that's a
Yeah.
whole thing. They named you that. Like it's not like I'm walking out like I'm black and I'm from New Orleans. Like it's not like I'm walking around and I'm Louisianian. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that at all. Afro Louisian. I can't say that. You know what I mean? So I just thought that like I'm not gonna lie to you. Y'all corner the market. Y'all fucking Latinx people corner the market when it comes to adding names to y'all shit. Shit. The best thing that I got is blurred. That's it. But going back into it, like I don't think that is nothing wrong with taking credit for the fact that you worked hard for something. I had a family, and I know other family members who, going back into my roots. Hey, History and Saki. Yo, what's up, Onyx Blade? How you doing? Um, I had roots in people who worked in the civil rights movement, but one of the most hurtful things I had one family member say is that like I would have never went through any of this. I would have never did any of those things if I would have known that your generation would have been the way that y'all are today. And that hurts because of the fact that I know that I got three college degrees and I'm able to go to a school primarily all white that I was graduating from, and these things would have never happened for people like her during those times. So I accept those things. So I think that that's a humbling thing to be able to know your past in that way, but also be able to actually have that drive to make sure that you do better for the next one. So I think that like honestly, if it wasn't for like I said, you and your group, then that sounds like a thing like hot rods, like Outworld Television, would not be the way it is. Because honestly, hot rod shit is positive as fuck. Like he yells and he drinks every now and then, but like it is positive as shit, man. He's always like encouraging people, and I'm not saying that that's not naturally him, but like I look at you and I'm like, that means that like he was a good person, but he became a better person because he listened to the advice that you gave. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So that's a humbling thing. I think that he needs to accept, but also I think that's a little pat on the back for you, girl. You killing it. No,
Thank you.
I now get why Nimbus said don't take baby out the corner. Shit. And which, by the way, big shout outs to Nimbus for hitting that follow button. I appreciate that a lot. With that being said, so how has it been? As I usually ask every like person in media, how do you feel the representation has been for females in media as we look at 2021 and 2020? Because that's kind of like where it's now starting to boom. I would say.
So I feel like the 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 boom that you're seeing is because we're kind of tired. Like we're so tired of being put in like out of the spotlight. Like um unfortunately, I feel like media still has a lot to evolve
Mm-hmm.
on when it comes to representation, both for Black women, um, Latin women, basically people of color, and especially for women non-binary, and again, anyone who identifies as femme.
Yes.
Um, I feel like every time we get into the spotlight, it's never focusing on our positive or on our personal projects. It's always focused on our trauma.
Yes.
And that's a serious issue that I feel like with 2020 and 2021, because we've been more inside and we're so much more on social media than we were before. Because before, obviously there was so much happening, we would be able to like actually go out and we would be able to actually, socialize. And there's a lot more happening than just staying home and being stuck on the computer or on the internet or anything like that. But with this boom between 2020 and 2021, there's been so much media focusing on that trauma that when it comes down to like when we get a sponsorship or when we get a huge opportunity, it falls on deaf ears because it's apparently not a story the media is interested on. Like, I can't tell you how grateful I am that I'm able to actually follow many of like the Black women and the Latin women and other forms of representation that people who look like me basically
Yes.
on Twitter. And I see them do such amazing things. I see amazing cosplays. I see amazing opportunities that they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not enough people actually talking about them. I don't see IGN talking about them. I don't see um, Porygon actually talking about them. Like I don't see more people actually, like more media outlets discussing about how important and how amazing it is that they've gotten like really good opportunities.
Okay.
Charities happen. Nobody talks about the amount of money that's getting raised. Like there's many streamers who are raising money for hurricane from the wreckage of Hurricane Ida,
Yes.
right? And instead of people covering about that, they were covering on another story that involved their trauma. And it's like, why? Why? I get it. It's a story,
Hmm.
but that representation that we want to see isn't our trauma, isn't our suffering, isn't our pain. It's seeing our like, hey, this is possible. You
Yes.
can get an opportunity with Alien. You can get an opportunity with these devs that are like AAA companies. We can get those opportunities, but nobody's talking about them, and then media is not talking about them. So not only do they lose out on the impact, but we, as the viewer and the person who's reading that media,
Yeah.
we lose out on a really good representation.
Yeah. Um. I want to say that, like, honestly, it's surprising that that is a thing. This is not me trying to measure up on like women's issues, but I mean this is a women's issue as well. But like it sounds like the same thing that like what happens with black people. Like nobody really wants to see a good black movie. A black movie is not usually, and I'm saying black to be generalizing, but a black or brown movie. That's what I usually say. A black or brown movie, like you don't usually see that unless it has to deal with them or be nominated for a Emmy or anything like that. Unless it's a slave movie or a movie about somebody who's overcoming being in prison or some shit like that. And it's like that's beyond us. Like don't get me wrong, that is ingrained into a lot of our culture, but we're beyond that. Like I haven't been to prison. I mean, I've had family members who go to prison, but I haven't been to prison other than to visit a friend or a family member who was in prison. I'm a dad. I mean, I take care of my kids as well. The only thing that I can sit there and say is that I had sexual trauma that happened to me. But the closest movie that I can relate to, and it's a sad thing, is Antoine Fisher when it comes to that type of stuff. I don't know if you know what Antoine Fisher is.
I unfortunately I suck with watching movies
Uh huh.
and TV shows. I'm
Okay.
more of a gamer and a literary
Yeah. No,
person.
that's okay. He had a book.
So
So he had a book. So I hold you accountable.
okay.
I'm joking. All right, no, I'm just joking. But like that's one of those ones that like I kind of felt like I agree with because of the history. I guess that's inside of the Antoine Fisher movie. If you ever get a chance, watch it. It's a really good one. But with that, so it sounds like that same thing is happening with you folks. You're like, man, like, fuck it, like it's my time, it's my chance.
Yeah.
It really is like my chance. And I see that. Like I see that and I think that like, man, y'all have been pioneering and y'all been badass. Now, I am gonna like switch a little bit on this. So one of the things that I've seen you as a Latinx person, culturally, how has that been a thing for you? Being able to go over the stereotypes. Now, I'm going to be honest and vulnerable on my part. In my wife's family, usually females are below boys. So, how has that thing been as a dynamic for you? May I ask?
So
I apologize for asking that. If you don't want to answer that question, that's fine.
no, it's
I'm
okay.
curious about it from hearing it from a different perspective.
So for me, I'm actually so I'm the oldest of me and my sister.
Okay,
And we're the only two girls in the main family, which is my family at the moment. Um, so my dad has definitely done like a really good job where he's never really shown like if I was a guy, um, it would be different, basically, right?
yeah,
So that's a big thing that I would say has contributed. But my dad is more progressive in that sense. He
fair enough.
came from Puerto Rico. He met my mom, and then as soon as she got pregnant with me, they came to Florida, and they basically got to work, essentially build their lives. And a lot of the times what happens is their progressive ways were completely different than like my grandmother's, for example.
Fair.
And that's what's interesting is gaming to them is definitely something that was more masculine in their eyes. Now that never really changed how they treated me, but like for example my grandmother, um, she saw it as like a phase instead of something that I was really passionate about. And
Okay.
if I was really passionate about, it was always met with like a dirty look or like a questionable look. Even to this day, as I was creating content, she couldn't believe that I was um, finding my passion and my drive in this, because she truly felt that if you weren't making money, then that's not a career for you. And that's a pretty big other like cultural thing that comes a lot from like Latin families is like if you're not making money, then that's not that then it's pointless,
Yes.
essentially. So between that and like that sort of like masculine perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely was a challenge,
Yes.
right? But as I like to say, and I'm really glad that you told me earlier about like your daughter, how she's like watching, right?
Yeah.
Um, when people like parents who watch my stream, and I make it very clear that my streams are like 18 and plus, right?
Yes.
When parents come to me and they're like, yo, I let my daughter watch you because you're showing them that whatever they want to do is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably like the biggest thing that I've always wanted to do. Hi Hannah, I see you by the way. Sorry, I wanted to say hi. um that
Oh,
like
she lurked. She lurked.
um
Head rolls up. Down.
so
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
no, that's okay.
ahead.
So
Hi,
when
Head.
they tell me like Saki, we let our children watch you because you're really inspirational and we really enjoy the fact that like your content is showing them. That is a big impact for me because it's showing them that I come from this background and
Yes.
it's very much possible for that little girl or for that little boy or for whoever, however they identify, that they don't need that approval. They just need the support, and that's one
Yes.
of the things that my dad has been really good with, is the support.
Mm-hmm.
Because he may not understand what I do, and he may not understand like the industry and like this career path or whatever, but
Yes.
he's very supportive, and he just wants me to be happy. And I think that that's like the biggest reason why I can overcome those challenges,
That's
um
that's so
as far as
dope.
like that heritage is concerned.
That's so dope. My toughest thing is I know that sometimes me and my wife's culture clash. And it's not even for the fact of like culturally as a black or brown thing. It's from like how we are in Louisiana to how we are like up north, or not north, but Midwest. And so, like I live in Michigan now. My wife primarily grew up in Michigan. So it's a different culture. It's a different like background and those things. But I'm kind of glad of the dynamic that like and I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna give my wife the credit that she fucking deserves. My wife is an amazing mother, hands down. She hovers, and that's not a bad thing. I love her because of the fact that she hovers, because my kids get the security that they need sometimes. This has been a tough time for my daughter to go back to school, and the reason
Mhm.
being is because of the fact that like she gets scared and she gets nervous because of the fact of like the whole COVID thing, and then also on top of that, like she gets social anxiety. She has social anxiety,
I have
so
social anxiety too. That's
so
actually that's good to know, because
yeah.
it's like it's crazy.
Yes, so it's a thing, you know what I mean. I have social anxiety, but I usually talk more to fill in that relationship, because I'm like the whole time I'm thinking like, hey, I got Saki here. Do she like me like the same way that she liked me 5 minutes ago? Did she like me the same way that she liked me 10 minutes ago? And I'm trying to make sure that I hold on to that relationship the whole time. And it's tough because of the fact that the whole time I'm like, please like me, please like me, please like me, please like me. And that's my anxiety. So I keep talking, and sometimes I bury myself because of the fact that I'm just so freaking out. Whereas my daughter, she shuts down. And
Yeah.
so I will say this, that my wife has done completely better than my family and my in-laws, is that my wife is like, no, fuck that. Come and give me a hug. Like, you're important. You know what I mean? You're dope. You know what I mean? You're amazing. My wife has definitely embraced that. And my kids are amazing kids because my wife. Now, with that being said, I told you earlier, my wife is Latinx and Native. So it's so dope because of the fact that she's kind of like fucked the traditional culture of what something is, and basically said, I'm going to be a better parent than what my ancestors were. And I admire that. I give her so much credit because my kids are so dope because of that woman. So big shout outs to her, and I'm glad that your dad did the same thing. You know what I mean? Kind of like said fuck it, and your mom gonna say the same thing. It's like fuck it. Um, I think it's funny though that you said that they think that gaming was a masculine thing, and
Yeah.
I think that is so funny that gaming was a masculine thing. But the first person who won a video game competition was trans. Did you know that?
I did not know that, actually.
Was trans. They were male to female, trans.
That's
How,
amazing. Like, it unfortunately, again, it's just one of those like parts of the culture that, like, when you don't educate properly,
yes,
the stereotypes fill in for that information.
yes, excuse me.
And again, I got lucky. I have family that, didn't really feed into those stereotypes. And
Yes,
if anything, they were just kind of like, you know what? Let her figure it out.
yeah,
Like, she needs to figure out what she wants to do. And if that's something she likes, that's something she likes.
yes,
Right. But there's other people who don't have or have that same luck or opportunity. And it's sad, because that's a future gamer that could be really beneficial to the
yes,
community. But because of those stereotypes, it things happen. And then vice versa, because of those stereotypes, you end up getting harassed
yes,
as a woman in the FGC or in the gaming space in general. So unfortunately, with stereotypes, they fill in that void of information, and when nobody's there to check them or actually prove them wrong, you get the issues you get that we deal with today.
Gotcha. I put a link up there, and hopefully that worked. I put a link up there for the name of the actual TV show. It's called High Score. It goes over the history. One of them is about Mortal Kombat, which is dope. But like, yeah, there was an episode, and he talked about the video game competitions that they used to have. So big shout outs to that culture and those people. But like, yeah, it breaks the dynamics of those things. The first person who added African Americans to like gaming for like football and sports games was African American, but he was gay. And then because he was like he like one year he looked at Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith, number 22, is white male, but if you look at Emmitt Smith in real life, Emmitt Smith is this black dude, like really dark guy. So how this is a thing, and so like that representation kind of matters. So like it's surprising that this has culturally been known as a male thing, and we wouldn't even have storytelling games like RPG games. We would not have it if it wasn't for a woman. Crazy shit. So you folks have been contributing shit, and I'm praising you for it. So, but besides that, let's get beyond that because I know that you talked about the actual oppression aspect of it, and I don't want to sound like that. I came on here for that. Here is the next thing that I'm going to say. And please, it's okay if you use language. It doesn't sound like you use language. My daughter heard me say worse, so I'm okay with this. This is her first time being able to listen to my podcast. My daughter's been asking me to listen to my podcast. This is her birthday gift. Her birthday gift is in November. So this is her birthday gift. So with that, why Mortal Kombat? Of all the games, why Mortal Kombat? This game has been like, I'm going to say my piece after this. This game has done everything to kind of like do both stereotype and sexualize females. Why Mortal Kombat of all things? What has made you come like love this game?
So oh my goodness. Okay, so I actually did not like fighting games before this. I actually hated fighting games, believe it or not. I like perfect example. I had a fighting game on my 3DS. It was Dead or Alive, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is garbage. Like, I can't play this. Like, what is this?
Yes.
And I'm sure all the Dead or Alive people are like, who is this person talking? No, but like I remember just having like I can remember it clear as day. It's like I was one day sitting on like the floor of my room and I was playing Dead or Alive. And I'm like, I hate fighting games. I never want to play another fighting game in my life after that. It's like it's never gonna happen. God. And then a couple of years, into the future, right? Yeah. When Mortal Kombat 11 was just about to come out about a few months, I want to say before. I was dating someone who was really into Mortal Kombat 11 and Injustice 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I mean, I don't really like fighting games. And then I remember they actually, we played Injustice 2, and the only reason I had gotten Injustice 2 was because of Starfire, because I really liked Starfire as a character. But I didn't like Injustice 2, and it was already late into the game that I was like, it's no point for me to learn. And he was like, he beat me up so bad, by the way, that I was like, you know what? I don't ever want to touch another fighting game against you. You're just going to not teach me.
Yes.
But then MK11 was around the corner, and he was like, yo, we got to play this game. It's going to be dope. It's literally like the last MK. Because, at the time, everybody was like, yo, this is like the last MK. We didn't even know we were going to get it. What is up? And I was like, okay, I guess. And I remember going into a GameStop, and like when I went into that GameStop, they had like the trailer / like breakdown of Jade on the GameStop like video.
Yes.
And I was like, oh wow, she looks really cool. Like I really like her.
Yes.
And I just liked how graceful she was. And when I got home, my ex had gotten me the game, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stream it. And I started streaming it, and I was having a lot of fun because I was learning about the game. I was trying to understand it, and then between actually falling in love with Mortal Kombat 11 because I was playing Jade at the time, and I still play to her to this day. I
Yes.
fell in love with the character, how she played, as well as the mechanics. I found a group of people in Babality where it was a bunch of women playing with each other and being a support group
Yes.
to just falling in love with like the entirety of like the community in the FGC.
Yes.
That after like it was like, you know how in the Powerpuff Girls you add all of those ingredients,
Yes. And you
and then
and then you
and
got
then like
chemical
Professor
X.
X like hits the glass on the X and it just makes me a badass. That's basically
Yeah.
what happened.
Yes. It- and I'm gonna say this real fast before I lost track of it. Dead or Alive is like, excuse me when I say this to anybody who's religious. Dead or Alive is like when you was raised Catholic and then everybody want to know why you're atheist when you're 20. So like that's what Dead or Alive is like that to the fighting game community. I love Dead or Alive. I love like what it did for a while with the 3D gaming community. But Dead or Alive has not really knocked down barriers. You know what I mean? I would say that like honestly, the thing that kind of like knocked down barriers in some kind of way is like the Tekkens or the virtual fighters of the world, in which virtual fighter does not get the credit that it deserves. But my game, Mortal Kombat, was for me a way to make extra money, but also my way of actually seeing my first rated R movie, essentially. uh, when my dad used to be a Greyhound bus driver, and Louisiana, in New Orleans, we used to have one of the larger like bus stations, big bus terminals in the South, and so my dad would go to work, and he'll bring me to work because he didn't believe if my grandmother couldn't watch me or my mom couldn't watch me, then I was not going to go anywhere. So I would like miss school sometimes because he would have to go on trips. But one of the things that he would do is drop a bunch of quarters in my hand and just say, "Go play this game" at the cabinet. And the first thing I see is Raiden standing up like this with his hands up. And the first thing that I learned was forward 1-1, essentially. So it's basically him high fiving a person in the face. That's how it all got started, y'all. It's him palming somebody in the face. That's where my Mortal Kombat experience started off. And then all of a sudden, I realized the funniest thing. I used to be so excited to see Johnny Cage fight Johnny Cage because the first thing he did was drop down, uppercut you in the nuts. I thought that was hilarious. You never seen that anywhere. Mortal Kombat was my first rated R movie, for real, for real. And you're talking about a person who was named after Jason Voorhees. So with that being said, I love it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I hated what it represented though. Sometimes. Later, everyone, have a beautiful night. You too, Onyx Blade. Which, by the way, big shout outs to Pooter for coming in the party. Yavkai says Starfire Squad. Rose Bunnick said that they're Jade main, but they scared to face me, so it's okay. We ain't gonna talk about that. And Nimbus said that they don't regret anything for you. I want to say. Oh,
Yeah.
that's why I say to Saki that I never regret anything I do for you. For her, that's what she said. So with that, what's another game that basically gets Saki excited about turning on the system? Oh, you embarrassed? Why did you get embarrassed about
There's
it?
a couple. Okay, so if we're talking about fighting games, still, it's definitely Guilty Gear Strive. That's my focus right now until
Okay.
Melty Blood comes out, and then I have like 3 games I'm going back and forth
Wait.
on.
What game was that? That last one you just said?
It's Melty Blood. Melty Blood will be the
Melt.
other one that I'll be a little bit focused on.
What is Melty Blood?
So it's an anime game.
Okay.
It's very old school anime fighter game.
Okay.
But they're coming out with the latest one
Okay. Gotcha.
happening like later in like 2 weeks, actually, I think.
Awesome sauce. So, see, in a few weeks I'll be on Back for Blood. So, but go ahead. Finish. What's the next one for you? I'm sorry.
So the other one was Guilty Gear Strive.
Okay.
Guilty Gear Strive is the one that definitely I love playing a lot. And for fighting game wise, it's another one that I'm like really focused on competing wise.
Okay, gotcha. So, when it comes to like competing, you did not traditionally grow up with this game, and you picked it up and you basically said, "Fuck this! I'm going to be the queen of the hill," because of the fact that, you know what I mean, I'm a babe, and you know what I mean, I kill everybody that I come through. So, like, how do you feel like knowing that like you picked up the game faster than a lot of people?
So I
Personally.
don't think that to be honest, and this is kind of opening up a little bit more to like the vulnerable side of me as far as like when it comes to like competing. I definitely want to say that it was
Big
an
shout out to Ayala.
unhealthy
Uh huh.
um mindset to like actually get into competing. To be honest, like if I could do it over again, I would honestly tell myself like, hey, you don't need to learn that fast as you're trying to do right now. And the reason I say that is because or when I first started competing, it was feeling more like stressed out catch up
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like because I had come into fighting games for like later, um where I wanted to be, which was like placing in top 8, was really aggravating and frustrating
Mm-hmm.
for me because I was so new and I had never touched a fighting game at such a level before. So, even though I was placing, I was never happy with my performance.
Okay.
So, and then in addition to that, like when I would practice and when I would like take my L's, they were never with the intention of learning from them. It was always trying to like win, win, win. And that's why I say that like if I can try to do it again, it would definitely be telling myself like, hey, there's no need for it.
Yes.
And the reason there's no need for it is because you're doing so much more that people are looking at you beyond
Mm-hmm.
just competing. And you don't need to go through all of that like um mental,
Yeah.
because it's a lot when you're competing. Your mentality is so important.
Yes.
um it's not just with skill, it's literally with like your mentality on taking the L's, placing in tournaments, during tournaments, before and after tournaments. Like there's so much happening and so much like pressure and like stress
Mm-hmm.
that it's really like it's an unhealthy amount. And as I've gone in like through like the last 3 years or so, 2 years and 2 year and a half, um I've been able to understand that reason of making sure my mentality is as healthy as possible. Because if it's not healthy, then I'm not going to be able to compete healthy, and that's a big thing. The other thing too is that there's always that pressure as a woman that when I'm competing,
Mm-hmm.
I have to do twice as much as the next person. And that is really like one of the reasons why when it comes to competing now, I try hard not to think about that, because again, it's one of those unhealthy pressures you don't need. Like all that pressure I'm putting on myself for what? For $50 or for popularity that I've already gained
Yeah.
for being me. So it's just like one of those things where like between trying to like be the best while also trying to be the best so that people take me seriously, not because of my gender but because of my skill, is like it's just like a mess of like really unhealthy pressure and stress. So now I'm obviously having learned that, I try to like progress my learning into the fighting game so that I'm not as overwhelmed, I'm not as stressed, I'm not as pressuring myself, and I can actually play better because I'm not under that level of scrutiny that I was when I first started.
So that basically you're saying that like the mental health aspect of it, it just has definitely been the biggest thing and the biggest factor to make sure that you do when you compete.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Mental health is like everything when it comes to when I compete.
Okay.
If it's not good, then it's not like I can't compete. Like perfect example. I recently broke up with my ex,
Uh huh.
and I haven't really been in a competing mindset because like the breakup was really detrimental to my mental health,
Yes.
and I have to make sure my mental health is on point, because if I try to go out and do these tournaments, I'm not going to be okay.
Yeah.
and that's not what I want to be. Like nobody needs me not okay. So while I may participate here and there on some like fun tournaments, my competitive right now is not where I'm going to be like I'm going to be able to perform at my very best.
Fair enough.
So better I just like back off, rebuild, make sure my mental's okay, and then I can come back stronger. And that's not gonna mean any less of me as a player. That's me actually being a bigger player and telling people, hey, I'm putting myself first before the game,
Okay.
before the competition.
So, wow. Um, I think that that's very tough. And I'm going to relate this back to even like with the streaming aspect of it. I've talked to several friends on here, and the toughest thing for me is when I stream, and I play these games. Mortal Kombat definitely and I mean the FGC. I feel like it has that embracing hug when it comes to the community, but it also can be easily taken away
Yeah.
sometimes. And I think that especially when you're streaming and you realize that not only are you losing in the columns of like fighting on the game, but you're losing as well when it comes to the viewers. So it's kind of hard to like stay mentally uh
Like 100% when you're
yeah,
streaming.
yes.
Yeah. So for me, as far as when it comes to streaming, I've always been honest about my mental health to my community as far as like letting them know, listen, I'm not feeling okay. I'm not saying that I'm in danger of myself. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to be here the next day.
Mhm.
But I am saying that, like, if you see me, please don't ask me, hey, why are you sad? Because what you're going to get
Yeah,
is literally me diving deeper into the hole that I'm digging myself.
fair.
So, I'm one of the biggest things I combat, like, I actually fight back on
Mhm.
when it comes to like having those situations and when I'm like down is letting my community know how I feel. And 9 out of 10 times they're always there to actually cheer me up. Like again, perfect example with this recent breakup. Like I was streaming and the only solace that I was finding from like actually getting my mind off of it
Yeah.
was streaming. But I know they're not there to see me sad. And I'm really not in the mental or have the energy to actually say, hi guys, I'm here. Like, let's go and have fun. Like, I can't just put on that smile and that makeup and just be like, I'm ready to go. And so when I'm honest with them, they appreciate, or at least I've made my community appreciate that
Mhm.
so that when they do see me stream, they know, you know what, Saki's not okay. Let's find a way to like actually make her feel okay.
Yeah.
Like the day after my breakup, I streamed Naraka, and they were like, they weren't just like, yo, we're so sorry, about your breakup. They were like, yo, Saki, that was OD. That was like a really cool play, and like that interaction and that interest to actually get me to not think about what was hurting me at
Mhm.
that very moment is really big. And so as a streamer, you have to make sure that your community works with you. Remember, you're the one that's creating the community. You're the one that's building this like I wouldn't say representation or brand, but this is literally
Hmm.
your like people
Yeah.
essentially. So they're following you, believe it or not. You may not try to like be like that leader or try to command them or anything like that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, when they come and see you, they're there for you. They're not
Gotcha.
there for the game you play.
Gotcha.
And that's one of the biggest things that like I try to like actually instill as far as values in my community
Mhm.
so that way when I do get into my dark moments, they're there. And I'm not gonna feel like I'm missing out on a stream or feel guilty. That's the word. I'm not gonna feel so guilty about me trying to be human.
Gotcha. So be your own Rick Grimes. That's what you're trying to say.
Basically.
Be your own Rick Grimes. And if you don't get it, that's a reference to the Walking Dead. Walking Dead. Rick
Yeah.
Grimes was the leader of his several like settlements that he was part of. He was always made the leader in some kind of form or fashion. So with that, I don't know. I think it's just tough for me to be able to open up, and I feel like I'm kind of like a scrub, or I'm trying to like beg for views, and I'm not. I'm just be like, bruh, I just really am not feeling it. I'm not digging it. And I hear other people who say the same thing, and it sounds like almost like spoiled or pessimistic, I guess you would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and I think that sometimes it's taken as like you're just trying to be like all up on, trying to be partner, just take me a partner kind of thing, and
So
it's
the
not
thing
that.
is, and this
It's
is another thing too, right? Is like everybody knows I want partner.
yeah,
I've said it multiple times. Like,
yes,
hey, I want partner. I want to be able to get that partnership. I want to keep it moving.
hmm
I want that check mark, right? And then, like, I won't lie. There's days that I'm like, yo, I do all of this, and I don't even have like 50 views. Like, what is going on?
yes,
And it's okay. And that's the thing that like should be normalized to viewers. It's okay to be frustrated with your numbers.
yes,
There's always a time where you're going to feel frustrated. It's human.
yes,
What's not okay is one, comparing yourself constantly that your content's suffering,
yes,
and two, making that an obsession.
yes,
Okay, because your content, you are not going to move anywhere. And
yeah,
in addition to that, like right now, the industry is moving away from numbers and more into impact. So you could be a streamer like myself that only has like an average of 15 views a month, but guess what? I've worked with makeup companies. I've worked with big orgs. I've
hmm
worked with huge amounts. I've literally got a PC that's like $2,000 because I was creating big tournaments that were impactful.
hmm
So it's okay to be frustrated. What's just not okay is to try to be so obsessed or compare yourself where it's toxic.
fair enough.
And that's where a lot of streamers, when you look at how an average streamer will start, most streamers don't last within, I believe, like within the first 5 years of streaming. They usually give up towards the end. And
Ooh,
it's not because of them um just being like, maybe this is not for me. This is literally like they're seeing what everybody else is doing. And then, in addition, for everybody trying to compare to everybody else,
hmm
they're frustrated with their own progress and they're like, this is like BS. And
yeah,
again, it's an obsession and it's a toxic cesspool that if you're not able to actually control it and say to yourself, hey, I'm not building myself because of the numbers, I'm building myself because of my impact and because of what I want to create in the future, it's going to be hard to maintain that dedication.
okay, wow. I'm a marinate on that one, and only reason why I marinate on that one because of the fact that like I think that that's a kind of a gut shot that a lot of people need to kind of accept is that fuck, I can still do this, I can still be successful, but I should measure, but I shouldn't indulge. If that makes sense, what I'm saying. I should
Mm-hmm.
taste it, but I should not indulge. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, man, like I'm gonna use a really really horrible analogy, but like just because I got Netflix right there, I mean it's okay to just to watch one episode. I don't have to binge. That's what it sounds like. That makes sense.
Basically.
So
Um,
go ahead.
More or less. I think the biggest thing is that like um you can feel a certain type of way, but don't let it control your life.
Yes.
Okay, again, you can be human, and I think that there's a really toxic culture with Twitch where viewers don't allow streamers to be human,
Yes.
and it's okay to be human. It's okay to like to you streamers, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to want more out of what you're giving.
Okay.
You have to just build healthy around.
Yes. I would agree with that. And also don't forget y'all I know we had the final 15 minutes of our interview. But with that, if you got questions for Saki, definitely type it in there. Just highlight your message as well. But Wraith said exactly. I think that's one of the problems, especially here on Twitch, where we focus on our numbers and others' numbers instead of focusing on creating the content that you want to make. Now, that leads to another question I'm going to ask you. Why do you think that it's important to I'm sorry, I shouldn't say why. Do you think it's important to have a discoverability on Twitch? Kind of like thumbnails are for YouTube? Like, do you think that it's important for that
I
discover?
think so. I think the discoverability is definitely important. It's probably one of the reasons why, when it comes to streaming, as far as like live streaming,
Mm-hmm.
Twitch has been like the leading platform for it. What I don't think or agree with, and I think needs to have like more reviews and on every platform,
Yes.
is the algorithms. There
Yes.
has yet to be a efficient algorithm that will satisfy how people feel like they're being discovered.
Yes.
Like right now with Twitch, the tags are a huge help, and they're trying to get a little bit better, but even then they're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube is atrocious because they will literally mute your entire backlog of content from your like subscribers even. So it's insanity that from your very own subscribers. And it's the same thing with Twitter as well. So like there's like the discoverability is important. What I think the real focus on is the algorithms themselves
Mm-hmm.
and actually re-evaluating them so that they are benefiting that more of those content creators that are not just like, I'm gonna be honest, the white cis male. You know, like there should be more focused on actually bringing black creators, bringing people of color creators, bringing the LGBTQIA creators, and really trying to actually invest in what is essentially the majority of who stream.
Yes.
And you know, studies and stats have are showing that we are making up the platform. Just because these guys are like the highest views doesn't mean that they're the platform.
Fair enough. That is true. I will say this: I definitely enjoy watching smaller streamers. I enjoy watching Hannah's streams. I don't watch all of Hannah's streams, but I love when she did Back for Blood, and I love when she did her MK stuff. But there's other people like Pooter, who streams as well, and he does like Mortal Kombat. I dibble and dabble. I hate watching people play Dead by Daylight. I don't know why. I hate watching people do. I like Dead by Daylight. I hate watching people play Dead by Daylight. So I had to stop myself from streaming Dead by Daylight because of the fact that I was like, if I hate watching people play it, then why would I play it expecting people to watch me? Because it might have a person who's like me that hates watching it but loves playing the game. It's kind of like baseball. Like I like playing baseball. Well, like people like
Yeah,
playing baseball,
but people
but
don't like really find it entertaining like that. I understand.
so
I
it's
completely
like
understand.
that. So I'll watch some people, but it's just like basically I'm watching a bunch of people just run around and play tag. So I think that like those people do represent the communities though in a general aspect of it, because not everybody is walking away with 500-600 people watching them at the same time, but a lot of us are walking away with 3, maybe 5, 10 people watching on average. Those are the people who are kind of representing the actual brand itself.
There's an actual graph for that. I see it all the time. And if you look at like it's the ratio between affiliates and partners,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's an actual like graph showing view based on viewer numbers. There are less people with the $1,000 view count and the 100 view count, and more people with the average of like um 5 to like 20 people.
Yes.
And that is the majority of Twitch, believe it or not. If you're within that category, you are like, I want to say like the 80 or 90% of Twitch. And they
Woo.
talk about that graphic a lot. So when you look at that graphic
Yes.
and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have the 75 viewers. But then when you look at that graphic, you're like, but I'm the majority of Twitch. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it's one of those things where like it's perspective. Like, and it goes back to what I was saying before. You can be upset about you not reaching that goal,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be frustrated.
Yes.
But in the bigger picture and in the longer run,
Mm-hmm.
you're creating impact over numbers, and that's really important. That's
Fair.
more important than what people are looking for to work with.
Fair enough. Now, I do have 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna let you go. I promise you. And I know that you got to go back to streaming. I'm so sorry for interrupting your stream.
No, it's okay.
So first thing first, why would a person who is streaming on Twitch right now go to TikTok or some other medium?
So I don't think that they would make the entire shift. Like I don't think they will jump and hop like or jump ship
Hmm.
basically. I think if they do jump into a different social media, it's to expand their influence. And
Okay,
this is something that has been happening recently with the hate rates on Twitch. Don't put your eggs all in a basket.
gotcha.
It's okay to spread your content. Like for me, I have realized TikTok is a growing social media.
Fair.
It is, and not just like those random TikTok videos. Many industry people are actually looking at TikTok creators and they're actually like, wait a minute, can you make more content in our game? And that is where they're kind of like, okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna start spreading my content there.
Fair.
And it's the same thing about like also looking for other avenues. Like don't let Twitch be your entire income.
Okay.
Find other different ways so that you can diversify it. And again, like Aziza says, or Naughty Nimbus says, diversify your content. It's okay to do that. In fact, it's beneficial that you do that because someone who, like an opportunity that sees that your brand has touched various audience in these different platforms versus one platform entirely, they're going to go for the different platforms because there's more people that are going to see it. It's not just a centralized focus.
So a nice way of saying that is basically be multi talented in one field. That's what it sounds like.
Um, be multi-talented in your content, in your social media, in
Okay.
how where you're posting it.
Okay,
If
gotcha.
you are focused on just like one game, that's okay, but diversify where you're posting that content.
Okay, gotcha. That's what it sounds like. Because like some people call themselves triple threats because they could produce music but also write that song and sing it. So like that's what that sounds like. And a lot of people, I think that they make the mistake the same way what you just said, just kind of put their eggs all in one basket. And now, I mean, with that extra information, you're like 89% of Twitch right now, or 80% of Twitch. So why would you not? Like, you're leaving money on the table. That's what it sounds like. What you're trying to say.
Mhm.
You're leaving money on the
Yeah.
table. Um,
You're also instilling like a confidence on one platform.
yes.
And just like what happened with Mixer, that platform can disappear in a day. It will
Fair.
it will not it's not thinking about you. So you have to
Fair.
think about your platform or
Fair.
your brand.
Now, I said two. I meant three. Because I got it. I meant. So here's my second question. Um, how would content creators today be in comparison to the modern, I guess you would say, celebrities who do movies and TV shows today? How would you say that? Or let's narrow it down a little bit simpler. How would content creators today will be like modern commentators, hosts, and TV show runners? I guess you would say showrunners.
So this is actually, I feel like this is a different, like this is a question that requires like I feel like a different, I wouldn't say topic, but it goes down a different rabbit hole for sure.
Yes.
Because you start dealing with a lot, to be honest. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like with this question, to keep it as simple as possible, um, it's really about if you have this group of people following you
Yes.
and you have this like I wouldn't say power, but if you have this like influence
Mm-hmm.
with your words, with your brand, be smart about it.
Yeah.
Don't be um don't be um so like crazy or like turn yourself and think and basically get an ego essentially. Be smart about it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's honestly like with great power comes with like great
Responsibility.
responsibility.
Yes.
And with celebrities, it's I feel like with celebrities and content creators, they fall under the same line that like all of that like influence can disappear in a blink of an eye if you're not smart with it.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of content creators in like honestly in the past 2 years where their influence has blinked in an eye because they were not smart about their influence and their like in that power. So as far as like that is concerned, like that's where they relate strongly. And I hope that we never have to like keep putting people on a platform because I don't agree with that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think people should basically say, "Oh, you're like the biggest person, therefore I will follow you,"
Yeah.
type of deal. Like, I think people need to be smarter
Mm-hmm.
as far as like when they're following someone.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you know, you can't control. You can only control you, right?
Yeah.
So just if you are on someone who is growing that big community or that like big influence,
Mm-hmm.
be smart about it. Don't be dumb. Don't make dumb decisions. Don't make wrong decisions and then try to like backpace it and make a fake apologies and things like that. Be smarter about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, the reason why I asked it because I mean I was thinking about like people who are like Jake Paul, the Logan brothers, right? They're now big in. Oh gosh, you turned your face.
Please don't even talk to me about those. Like, oh my god.
But they were content creators. They were YouTube creators, and then you look at what.
Perfect example of not being smart with their influence.
Yo, Maverick, what up? No, I was just saying that yeah, that is perfect example. But like you look at them and then you look at like Liza, she became a host for so many things like Double Dare and her TV show Freakish on Hulu and then now you look at people who are like Ninja, who is now becoming an influence in other shit, like for example, movies now and interviews on TV shows, all because of the fact that they sat here and did a video game stream. You know, so uh, it seems like we as streamers, in weird and fucked up as way, are becoming the modern idea of what a celebrity looks like, you know. And I think that it is with that old idea of what people used to think about people who were in news, like, oh, you're super famous and you're super rich because of the fact that you're on news, but really you make only like 25 to $35,000, and the most coveted thing that you can do is you're right in front of a camera, uh and you feel like that now it's kind of like we're taking that spot, but also we make that spot look good because financially we do start to benefit from it a little bit more than what people who were in the news in like the 90s and behind.
I
Um,
think
Go
with
ahead.
every generation we're gonna have those like I would say like uh people we're gonna look up to. I just again it just comes down to like be smart about it.
Yeah.
So
That now Ray said it's not good business to cast such a small net. Show everyone what you've got wherever you can, even though it can be pretty easy to look at the potentiality of success on a single platform, especially if you're looking at the top numbers. With that, you know, yeah, it's easy to kind of fall into that. But I guess the hard thing is, like I said, you kind of have those people who are like traditionalists, they followed like Fallout Boys and stuff like that, and they're like, oh man, Fallout Boys are not like they used to be, you know, those things, and to kind of see that in the streamers. But beyond that, like I don't want to take you away with your time, and you got to do this one last question for me.
okay.
What would you say? I'm going to use the example of my daughter because, like I said, this is supposed to be. So, what would be some encouraging words that you would give to my daughter? I love my baby Isis. I love who she is, and I think that she's amazing. But I want to hear what would you give her as advice as a person who's growing up to as now. I mean, I'm glad that you are a Latin nerd, and I mean by that a Latin nerd, a Latin nerd. How what advice would you give to her if she was sitting right in front of you?
So the biggest advice I usually give this to like a lot of people who watch me when I usually when I do these interviews um is no matter what people say, never do it because of those people. Do it for you. Because when you do something, you're the one that's left with that action, right? So you can either be really upset about it and regret it,
Mm-hmm.
and life's too short for you to regret stuff. Or you can be happy and proud about it, and
Yes.
you can build off of that proud and happiness and positivity and all that energy.
Fair enough.
So when you go out and you do or you make a decision, be happy
Mm-hmm.
or comfortable with that decision and never look back on it and regret it.
Fair
Like,
enough.
I don't regret going through and into fighting games. I will never regret that.
Fair enough.
And I will always try to like build off of like what I inspire or what I'm trying to do. And I will never do it I will never compete rather for that person that's basically saying, "Oh, you're a girl, you can't do shit," basically.
Yes.
I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it because I'm telling myself I can do shit.
Okay.
So I can make it happen, and I can do that. So no matter what, don't let other people influence. Listen, I'm chubby, I'm Latina, I'm literally everything against the book of what people say is acceptable.
Yes.
I am still gonna move forward and say, F you, I'm gonna do me. That's all I can do. So that's the same energy you gotta have.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. With that being said, let's drop that clap real fast.
You don't understand.
That felt really good. With that being said, tell people where they can find you, Miss Saki.
So you all can find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at at Saki Sakura TV. So it's SAKISAKURAB, and then on YouTube it's just Saki Sakura, and then of course you can follow Queen of the Hill series at the TheQoThS, and then of course you can follow my team, Dynamic Focused, and they're amazing. So go follow everything.
I'm gonna actually you because it looks like Naughty Nimbus is kind of like your mod. Naughty Nimbus, can you do me a favor and actually copy and paste those things for me real fast? Just,
She's not my mod,
but she's
it's
acting
okay.
like that. She's like doing it, man. And like I felt like I had a book reference right there. Wraith said, "Thanks for the great podcast and interview, y'all. No, man, appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it. And honestly, Brian Ayala said, we love you, Saki Sakura. So,
Love you guys too.
I want to give a big shout out to Vanity Plays. I want to give a big shout out to like Hot Rod Crusher, as well as also Hannah made me super excited to like talk to you. Like Vanity and like I said, like Hot Rod was like, oh yeah, you could talk to this person. But like Hannah on my stream was like, talk to Saki. Oh my god, talk to Saki. It's so
Like
exciting.
I said, that's like the same energy I would give her too if I'm
Oh
like,
my
yo, you
god.
gotta talk to Hannah right now.
Thanks. So with that, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing that. With that being said, I can't do any. I am the owner of Dynamic Focus. Well, message Nimbus as well. Fuck. I'm trying. I'm trying to promote you. Uh, with that being said, big shout out to you, Saki Sakura. I really, really appreciate you. And then, who would you challenge me to interview? Who would you recommend that I talk to? I already talked to Han.
Um,
I do have scheduled appointments, interviews with Wolf Princess. Not Vera. Good.
I think you should do either Candy or Infinity from Kunoichi.
Get me in
I'm gonna
contact with
throw their
Affinity.
names out.
I've been trying to get in
Uh,
her and Losty Girl.
so I know that you can always email them. Email them is always the best way to contact.
Yeah.
I feel so.
I would try to do that then. With that being said, interview at Pooter Pyramid. Man, this is all about females, man. This is all about cis females and femme people. So Pooter is not in my demographic per se. I love Pooter, but Pooter is not in my demographic. At least this time. So with that being said, I cannot do no more podcasts. With that being said, let's say this right now. Are you not? Oh fuck! This is the normal podcast. This is not the. Well, you're a game streamer, so I can say it. Are you not entertained? So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for joining. Come back next week. Next week, Wednesday, I will be doing an actual interview with Sanita Lanier. She's the county commissioner for Grand Rapids, Michigan. That would be on Wednesday. Fucking forgive me for that. Let me double check on that one. That would be on. Yep, correct. The interview with Sanita Lanier will be. That's actually the 29th. I'm sorry. So actually, I'm correct myself. Interview with Vanity is actually next week, Wednesday at 8 p.m. to 9:30. And then Vera is actually that Thursday as well. So this is the second week in a row where pretty much the second week in a row where I get like 2 interviews outside of this one. So with that being said, man, I appreciate it. I think that this is dope. So thanks a lot, Saki. And thanks a lot, everybody, for watching the stream. Be back tomorrow where we will have we'll open up the cabana again for the finals. Not the finals, for the